This is a very important and emotionally deep video for me as someone who is really struggling with scarcity mentality. On so many mornings, I wake up and I'm instantly worried that I won't have enough money to pay the bills and still live a life. I haven't added anything to our emergency funds for months, almost a year since last spring when I left Russia, and it's a huge anxiety trigger for me. So if you're like me and you're fed up with a scarcity mindset that is forcing us to live in the survival mode non-stop, I invite you to explore this topic with me today. What is scarcity mindset? Where does it come from? How does it affect us? And in what way we can transform it? And here is a very important disclaimer. All opinions in this video are very subjective and personal, and I am speaking to you from my own experience. And of course, there are real situations of scarcity, physical scarcity, which is really sad. But here today, we are talking about a particular mindset that needs transformation for intentional living, regardless of our finances. Now a bit of a personal background, and if you want to go straight to practical points, feel free to use the video timestamps. I was born in 1983 in the times of USSR and grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, which were crazy for Russia and especially the coal mining region of Siberia, where I'm from. People were killed because of money on a regular, almost daily basis. The crime rate was sky high. We got our clothes from the so-called humanitarian aid from the West and managed to eat more or less decently only thanks to my grandparents who lived in the countryside. And we all our big family, grew our vegetables there, and we had eggs, milk and meat from our animals. At some moment, all the money that my parents managed to save on their bank account was expropriated by the government. Yeah, that's how it happened, and it was a story for so many families, Soviet families back then. We never had a car and lived all together in a small two-room apartment that was given to my mom at her job at a metallurgical factory. That was one of the few good things about the USSR. People were given free accommodation, and of course it came with a lot of effort, but still. And now that my parents are gone, I am the owner of that tiny little apartment of my childhood in Siberia. I got good education as an A student because I realized that it was the only way for me to be an A student, to get scholarship and study, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to afford paid education. I always worked a lot, first in my home city and then in Moscow, where I moved to when I was 25. I earned enough, I felt stable, and I didn't save as much as I could. I was into fast fashion, I was buying clothes all the time, I was eating pizza at Italian restaurants because that was my dream coming true, and I enjoyed beer and cocktails with my friends at bars. And I thought that I was living the life. Now I understand that I was spending everything that I earned. I was living hand to mouth without saving anything because I didn't believe that money can give me any value in the long term. Because this is how I grew up, and I didn't find it important to change my mindset. Because again, I thought that I will lose everything unless I spend it. When I finally decided to go freelancing, I felt more liberated, and at first I earned much less, but then I managed to double my income, and at some point I had 3 steady flows of income, one from my translation, one from my copywriting, and I also had a freelance position for a global giant, which name I cannot disclose, of course. I was the so-called cheap labor and made less than $5 an hour, but back then it was a lot for me. I had regular burnouts and eye problems because of staring at the screen all the time, and I still looked for side hustles because I had that anxiety always going on that all my money streams will be gone. So I was trying to make some money on my handmade skills. I sold pencil cases, I sold handmade jewelry, and also occasional crochet and knitted items. At that period of time, I managed to save quite a lot, at least for me. For example, like $3,000 was an enormous sum that I managed to lay aside. And it was then when my mindset began to shift a little bit. Finally, I could compare the amount of my work hours, the money that I made, and the things I spent that money on. And I slowly began to introduce minimalism into my life. Then a lot of other important events happened. Brian and I met and we got married, moved to Georgia. Then we had to part again. Because of money. He had to go back to the US to earn money and to start my immigration process, but then we had to put it on hold. I talked a lot about it on this channel, and if you haven't heard my story, you're welcome to check out some videos from last year, and I won't repeat anything here right now. Just to make it clear, I'm not complaining here, I'm just sharing my financial story and my background and reasoning for having that scarcity mindset, and maybe you can relate to some of my experiences. Just like so many people now, I don't have any financial stability and it impacts my mental health a lot, and I'm really tired of it. In a nutshell, scarcity mentality is a feeling of not having enough time, money, skills, connections, health. It's the ever-present mindset that you just can't have a decent life of your dream because you don't have enough of what you need for that. For example, I want to learn illustration, but I don't have skills and time to acquire them because I need to side hustle to earn money that I also don't have enough. So you see, this circle of reasoning can be just endless. And again, it's not just about finances, it's just everything that can be scarce or lost. Education, job, free time, marriage, meaningful connections, just you name it. We focus on what we don't have or on what we are so desperately afraid of losing that at some point we find ourselves drowned in the waters of lessness, scarcity, and fear. It prevents us from being able to solve problems, hold onto information, control impulses, or simply be in the moment. And here are a few very important signs that you might be having a scarcity mindset. You overschedule yourself and feel guilty for idle moments because you think this is when you could have provided something more for yourself. You're very self-judgmental. You say yes to opportunities that are not right for you because you think that there won't be anything else offered. You're afraid to ask for promotion or raise your prices because you think thus you can lose everything. You're horrified and stressed when you have to use your emergency fund. You find it too hard to declutter things that are old or no longer serve you because you're afraid there will be time when you might need them unexpectedly and urgently. You are too impatient and too addicted to instant gratification. You view others as competitors. Even when you try to change this, you fail, and you keep comparing yourself to others. You always feel behind everyone else. FOMO is your ever-present companion. To how many of these can you relate? Just let me know in the comments. I can definitely relate to undervaluing myself. For example, when translation was my main source of income, I didn't raise my rate per word for 4 years. 4 years, because I was so afraid that I will lose my existing clients. And it's a very, very sad place to be. And I also did take opportunities that didn't feel right for me, just because I thought that I didn't have much control over my life, that I was the victim of circumstances and an average failure with no decent perspectives in life. And I was miserable, I was stressed and depressed almost all the time. Those were very dark times in my professional life. Now I'm much better with more than a half of those signs, but I still have a lot to work on. They say that the opposite of scarcity mindset is the abundance mindset, but I prefer to call it a growth and gratitude mindset because it's a kinder and a softer way to handle yourself and the world around. What do you think? So here are some simple yet potentially effective ways to shift from scarcity to growth and gratitude. Focus on what you already have, on what you have achieved. Maybe try to write down all your personal achievements at the end of each week or even each day. Scarcity mindset makes us view ourselves as not ever doing enough, which is wrong, of course. Be a giver. With scarcity mindset, we sometimes care only about what we can get. The survival mode does not contribute to generosity at all. Try to practice acts of giving. It doesn't necessarily have to be financial giving. It can be helping out someone on your day off or giving free lessons. Just think of something that you could give to this world and people around you. Practice self-compassion. Sometimes just getting up in the morning and taking a shower is an act of courage. Give yourself some love and space in your own heart. Find your own source of abundance. What is your main engine that keeps you going? Your family, your hobby, your work, your animal companions. And again, it's about recognizing your treasures instead of dreaming of new ones. We all have abundance, we just need to have a closer look at it. Ask for advice from your closest person, especially if you're like me struggling with self-depreciation. I think now that self-depreciation deserves a separate video. Would you like me to talk about it? Let me know in the comments. When I have self-depreciation relapses, I talk about it with my cousin or my husband, as they are the two who know me best, and the support they provide is priceless. Use affirmations. Sometimes they are called positive affirmations, but I rather prefer to call them intentional affirmations. I have a list of my own that I try to read to myself every day. They are a reminder that nothing is that bad as it might seem. Also, for the oncoming spring, I'm working on a collage art project with affirmations involved. It will be all about birds and flowers and beautiful daily reminders. I hope to share it with you soon. Scarcity mindset often comes from the experience of poverty in childhood and early adulthood. It influences everything and spreads far beyond financial issues, adding more stress and anxiety to our life. And I hope this video helped you to explore this topic closer, and maybe you found some inspiration and encouragement to shift your mindset from scarcity to growth and gratitude. Thank you so much for being here and watching, dear friends. All the content that I make here and on my second channel about art and crafting is possible thanks to the generous souls that support me on Patreon and other tipping platforms. They tip me so that I can make videos that are free for you to watch. If you want and if you are able to support me, you will find all the links down below. And again, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And as always, be safe and keep your heart open. And I hope to see you soon. Bye. Пока-пока.